we want to understand what is the architecture of database management system, or what is the whole framework of database management system. So as uh, as we have discussed, like data is nothing but some raw information. It may be some written information, it may be some information which is in your mind, or it may be the information which is inside the computer memory, right? And what is the meaning of database? So database is nothing but the similar type of collected data. And if we'll talk about similar type of data, it means that it has some property which are similar. And just like if we want to create the database for a student, so all student information will be there. If we want to create the database of the employee, so all employee information will be there. If we want to connect the database, create the database of the let's say retail store, so all sales, purchases, their invoice and all those things are there. So database is nothing but similar type of data. Now if we'll go through the database management system architecture, so this is the architecture of it, if you can see that. So here we have different parts. This is one part, this is another part, this is another part, and this is another part. The whole architecture will means the part will consist of different works and different functionals that will see what are the function of each and every part, and we'll see that how the whole architecture will be useful for making the success of database management system. And let me tell you, all the database management system which exist till now, the basic architecture is this. They may enhance some of the other functionality, or they may add, or they may enhance some of the functionality, but more or less they are using this particular standard architecture. Now let's go to this particular architecture from the very top view. Now, as you can see, we have different users. Okay, so we have mainly the database management system mainly has 4 users. The first user is called name user. Second is the application programmers, sophisticated user, and database administrator. Let's see one by one. So the first one is the name user. Name user is nothing but a user without any information regarding the database. They know only how to use the database or how to interact with the database. They only know that. And the name user will interact with the database through application interface. So there is an interface, and through the interface, a user will use the database. So just like I told you, if we'll go to the ATM machine with your debit or credit card, so you are actually the name user. You're using the application interface, and you don't know what is going on, how the query will be reached to the database, how everything will be, how your data will be fetched from the database, and how your transaction will be done. You don't know about anything, right? So you are the naive user. Now let's talk about another type of user, which is called application programmers. So the application programmer, and it will use it. So the main function of name user is to use the functionality of the database management system using application interface. Now let's go to another user, which is called application programmers. Application programmers are nothing but the developers who used to write the code for the database management systems. So actually, they are the writer of the program which is executing inside the database. And how they will interact with the database? So they will interact with the database using application programs, right? So maybe the application programmer is writing any application, and this particular application will be and the backend of this particular application is the database management system, and they are writing some code so that the application will be compatible with the database management system. So they will use some sort of application program. If you'll assume that they are creating a web page, so they will use, let's say, Java web pages, and this particular web page has the application, a different application program, right? And it will interact with the database. So they may use JDBC or to interact with the database, or ODBC to interact with the database. So that is the second type of user, and who will write some application into the database management system. So this is your application programmer. There's a second user. Through the application program, it will interact with the database. Now, third user is called sophisticated user or analyst. Now, what sophisticated user will do is, sophisticated user will fetch some queries, and so you know about the data scientist, right? Or any other type of users like miners who will do the data mining and all. And what they do is they will fetch the query into the database, and they will use the query tool to do that. And they also use the database. Okay? They also not write anything into the database or not going to develop anything into the database. They just use it through the query tools. So they know the queries, and if they want to get any data, they will use the query tool to execute the query and get the data, right? So the analyst, data analyst, or the data scientist will use these type of query tool to interact with the database management system. These are called sophisticated user. You also, when once you'll create the database, so in the lab also you will understand that how you'll create the database, how you will insert the data into the database, and how you can get the data from the database. So when you are getting the data from the database, or when you do any type of query into the database to fetching the data, so you will become the first sophisticated user. Okay. Now, the last user of the database management system is called database administrator. That is also called DBA in short form, database administrator. Now, what is database administrator? Database administrator is a type of administrator into the database management system, and it is the responsibility of the database administrator to manage the database management system through the administration tools. So they have different tools by which they will manage the database management system. Now, database administrator, as you can say, is a type of manager, okay, which is managing the database management system. Like what will be the database size, what type of data we can enter into the database, what are the user that will be interacting with the database, what are the access I'll provide to which type of user. So let's say in our system, in our college management system, let's say the administrative people have, the admin people have more access than the faculty and the student, right? Faculty has only access to their subjects. Student also has only access to their subject as well as a specific to their roll number. And these admin people have more access. The administrative people have more than that access. So the access of the data will be defined by the database administrator by using some administration tools. Okay. So these are the mainly four user that we'll use in the database management system. Now, if we'll go to the lower to that particular part, the second part of your database management system is called query processor. So these are all functionality related to the query processing. Okay, let's see one by one. If we have the naive user, so naive user, we know that it will just, if you'll go to the ATM machine, you will become the naive user. So naive user will interact with the database using application interface, and this application interface is there is a function called application program object code. So application interface will generate the functions and the object code is going to be executed, right? This object code will convert whatever whatever query has been sent by the naive user, and it will give it to query evaluation engine. This query evaluation engine will evaluate the query. Now, if you'll go to the second type of user, which is called application programmer. So the application programmer will interact with the database through application programs. Because it is an application program, we need the compiler and linker, which will compile as well as execute the application program. So we need this linker, and after that, it will convert the program into object code, and from the object code, it will execute the query into the query evaluation engine. Or if we have another type of query like DML query, data manipulation language, if we have, let's say somebody want to update, let's say we went to the ATM machine to withdraw some money, so definitely we should have some updation query. So it will go to the DML queries function, where the database manipulation language will be executed. DML is nothing but a data manipulation language, right? And in that, we'll do different type of updation. Updation is delete, if we want to insert anything, or if we want to update anything, right? So for that, we'll use data manipulation language queries. This database data manipulation language queries function is also useful for query tools. If you want to do any type of query, it will use it, right? Then we have the administration tool. Administration tool can use DML queries as well as DDL interpreter. Now, what is DDL? Is data definition language. Data definition language is for defining the database. Let's say we want to create a new database. So for that, I'll use data definition language. So we have different type of language you will learn when we learn the how we'll create the database in labs and all, right? So in lab, you will learn all those data languages. So this is the data manipulation language queries, and this is data definition language interpreter. Data manipulation language queries will give the, after doing the function, it will give it the command to data manipulation language compiler and organizer. And then it will go to the evaluation engine to evaluate the query. So this is your query processing part. Okay. Now, if we'll go to the lower part of that, so all the storage manager. So a storage manager is interacting with query processor through evaluation engine. So query evaluation engine has the responsibility to evaluate the query, to execute the query, right? So Based on what type of query it is executing, it is concerning with different type of storage managers. So in the storage manager, we have four different functions. So the first function is the buffer manager, which has the responsibility of managing the buffer of the query. And it buffer means temporary memory. Okay. So once you will be fetching the query, this buffer manager is responsible for fetching the data for temporary basis, and after the whole execution of the query, it will send the data to the query evaluation engine again. Then we have the file manager. File manager has the responsibility of managing all the files, like where my database are. Let's say if I am looking for the student database, so it has the responsibility of taking me to the student database. If I am looking for the faculty database, so it is the responsibility of the file manager to take me or to take the control to the faculty database. Then we have authorization and integrity manager. This authorization and integrity manager will be used when we do any type of query, and it will first find it out that whether that particular user is authorized for fetching the data or not. It means first we'll find it out, like if any user is executing the query. So first we'll see that whether that user has the access to the particular database, what he or she is expecting the output. So the authorization manager will take care of it, and integrity manager will take care of the same, right? So integrity means we don't want to update the data by the user who doesn't have the authority. So we want that data should be updated by the concerned authority. Means it should has the access to the data. Then only you can update the data. Otherwise, you cannot update the data. So authorization and integrity manager will take care of that. Then there is a translation manager, which will further translate the query. Evaluation engine will give the query, so that query will further get okay, there is a transaction manager. Sorry, it is not translation, it is transaction manager. So transaction manager will take care of different transactions. So our last unit is dedicated to the transaction. So what is a transaction is? Transaction is like that. If any user A want to send the money to any user B, okay. So what is the transaction? Transaction will be, let's say, if user A want to send the money of, let's say, 10,000 to user B. So that particular operation is nothing but one transaction. And this particular transaction will be having different operations. Like, first of all, A will read its data, that how much money it has. Then from A, the 10,000 will be deducted, right? Means updation will be done. And then that updated value will be updated in its database, A's database. Let's say A has 20,000 previously. Now it want to send the 10,000 to B. So it will take, it will be updated. 20,000 will be updated, means 20,000 minus 10,000 means 10,000 is left. So 10,000 will be updated into the database of A, right? After that, we'll come to B. Then B will read its database. Let's say B has 5,000 right now. And after depositing the 20,000 in B's account, the updation will be done. And the value to the account of the B will be 15,000. And that 15,000 will be updated into the B's database. So the whole operation, means all read, update, write operation that I told you, is nothing but one transaction. So a transaction is a combination of different read write queries. and that will be taken care by the transaction manager. So as you can see, there are different storage manager which will take care of different things. Now come to the lower part of the database management system. We have the disk storage, where actual data will be stored along with some different data. So as you can see, we have actual data here. This is the actual data which is stored, and buffer manager will fetch the data from it, as well as file manager will take care will taking care of making the control to the actual data. Then we have indices. Indices is just like your so when you open a book, you will get in first 2-3 pages you will get a content page, right? In that you will find out the topic and the page number. Okay, so indices is like that. So in the indices we have, let's say we are looking for the student database. So what file manager will do? File manager will go here in the indices. It will find out where the student database is. Along with that, there is a pointer or maybe the address. So that address it will fetch, and then it will go to the address into the data of that particular table, right? So this is how the indices will be used, and it will reduce the searching, right? So we have different type of indices. So about that we'll learn later on. Now after that we have two more different type of data. One is called data dictionary. Another is called statistical data. So what is a data dictionary? So data dictionary is nothing but a component into the disk storage which has the data about the data. What is the meaning of data about the data? Data about the data means we have the actual data here, but data dictionary will tell you that what is the size of the particular table, what is the name of the particular table, uh, how one table is related, how that particular table is related to another table, what are the user that can access that table, and how many columns are there, how many rows are there, what are the name of different columns into that particular table. So all those information will be there in the data dictionary. So data dictionary will tell you about data which is stored. So it will tell you the information about data. So it is also called, data dictionary is also called metadata. It is telling you the data about the data. Okay, so in the data dictionary will store all those things. Means here we doesn't have the actual data, here we have data about the data. And then we have statistical data. In the statistical data, and it is very much useful for the analytical purpose. So in the statistical data we have the data like how many students are pass or how many students are fail. Now how many students got more than 80%, how many students got more than 60%, and what is the grade, how many student will get the grade of, let's say, A, or how many students get the grade of B. So all those information will be there in the statistical data. The statistical data is slowly being updated based on the query. Whatever uh, query will fetch, and this particular query will be fetch, and based on that this statistical data will be updated. So that if we'll fetch the similar type of query, so from statistical data it will give the result. So that's why the statistical data is there. And this statistical data is very much useful for the analytics, for making the data analytics, and for the analytics, or who will do the data analytics. For that, the statistical data is very much useful to getting the uh, query results. So as you can see, although the architecture is complex, but it is very easy to understand each and every component in this particular database management system architecture. Okay. About all the thing which I told you is there in the slide. So I'm not going to read all those things again and again. Okay, I'll tell you about the data dictionary. So as I told you, data dictionary is nothing but data about the data. Here we have different information related to the data which is stored. So what are the information? As I told you, name of the relation. Relation is nothing but your table, your database. Name of the database. Name of the attribute of each relation, means each database. Domain and length of the attribute. Okay, so yeah, before going to this term, let me tell you what are those. Now, the first of all is relations. So if in the future also, if I'll tell you about relations, so here relations are nothing but the table. So when you visualize any table, means student table or faculty table or university table or any type of other product table. So any table is nothing but a relation into the relational database management system. Second thing, attributes. So what do you mean by attributes? Okay, so what do you mean by attribute? Attribute is nothing but the column name that will write. So for the student, what is the attribute? For the student, the attribute is student roll number, student name, student branch, student's uh, phone number, students, let's say the semester. All those are nothing but attribute of the student. Okay, so it is called attribute of that particular relation. Relation means your student table. So I think you understand here. If I'll tell you what relation is nothing but table, and attribute is nothing but the column in the table. Getting it? So what data dictionary will have? Data dictionary will have name of the relation, means name of the table, name of the attribute, means name of the columns, domain and length of the attribute, means in which domain you are putting the data. Let's say if you have a roll number, so roll number is the combination of your numeric, and so it is an alphanumeric number. So this is my domain. If I'll talk about phone number, so it is a numeric value, right? So it will tell you about the domain as well as the length. So what should be the length of the phone number? So it is of 10 digits, right? So 10 is my length. So here it will take care of all those things. Name of views. I'll let you know what is the meaning of views. So views are nothing but how one user will see the database. So as we know that there are different levels. In the view level, we have different views. So to see any database, your view is different than another person's view, right? So that is nothing but the view, and we'll see how we'll create the view and all. So name of the view, defining the database, definition of those views are also there in the data dictionary. Then we have integrity constraints. What is the meaning of integrity constraint? Integrity constraints are nothing but there are some constraint, there are some restrictions into the data. Into the data means how will define the data. So taking care of that, while creating the table, we define the integrity constraints. Means at the time of creation of the table, we'll see that what are the different columns into the database, and all those columns has some restrictions that we'll see into the integrity constraint. So I think into the, when we'll start the lab and all, so I think they will tell you about the integrity constraint first. Then we have names of authorized user will be there. Then accounting information about user, number of tuples in each relation. What is the meaning of tuples? Tuples is nothing but one row in the table. Getting it? One row or one record in the table is called tuple. In the relation means in the table. So one row in the table. So how many number of rows in the table, that is also stored into the database. Method of storage of each relation means it is a cluster or non-cluster. We'll see that later. Name of the index, in which index this data information will be there. Name of the relation being indexed, attribute on which the index is defined, type of index form. So all this information will be there in the data dictionary. Okay.